Ladies and gentlemen, we are back again on Full Moon Fridays here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. Steve is holding up the most problematic puppet in the Puppet Master franchise, Blade. We're going to talk
No,
about him a
no, no,
little
no,
bit
no, no.
later.
The most problematic puppets pop up in Axis Rising.
Well, fair. Okay, fair. But, this is every 2 weeks on Outpost Unknown because I'm very, very lazy and I can't get up one every week. But we record one every single week. And tonight, somebody very special, near and dear to our hearts, decided to join us on this adventure through the Puppet Master franchise, our Swedish correspondent, Borpan.
Hello. It's an honor to be here.
It shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be.
Now, what's really cool about this, Borp, is that you had never seen any of the Puppet Master movies. Is that correct?
That is correct. I actually looked on my Letterboxd account and realized that I hadn't seen many Full Moon pictures. Or is it Full Moon Studios? Whatever. Many
It
Full
bounces
Moon.
around.
Yeah, okay. Full Moon movies at all. I think the only one I had logged on there was Castle Freak. So this is very new to me.
Okay. Yeah, and so as we told you, because we sort of like, hey man, jump on, watch this. Last week we watched Retro Puppet Master. Now, did you have a chance to watch Retro Puppet Master before Puppet Master 3?
No, unfortunately not. So Puppet
Well, you
Master
That's a
failed
good
already.
life decision.
Well,
You've
Puppet
already
Master
failed.
decision.
Okay, I see.
So Puppet Master 3, we're going to talk about that tonight. Incidentally, it's also directed by David DeCutto, who years later would go back and direct Retro Puppet Master to make the canon all fit and make it perfectly logical.
Except it didn't. It didn't whatsoever.
Oh, it didn't, because it doesn't matter. Yeah, we're going to talk about that tonight, and I guess what I will say, I will have... Oh, see, I got to hit play. Now, I got to be very, very careful here, folks, because there are titties in Puppet Master 3, so I'm going to have to look very, very closely when I'm editing to make sure
You do this to yourself. Like, no one's making you do this.
I do, but now it's like a running gag, right? It's a thing. Like, it just has to continue going on, and I feel like the nudity becomes less and less the further into the Puppet Master series we go. So I don't think we're going to have to
There's
worry
a swastika immediately behind you.
Oh, see, now that might be a problem. Okay, well, I'm going to have to do a lot of editing on this one, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm gonna get into this recording after we're done and take certain screenshots to be used for blackmail material.
No, you won't do that at all. So yes, Puppet Master 3, directed by David DeCutto. This went into production 2 months after the completion of Puppet Master 2, so that is how quickly Charles Band got this off the ground. Now, this is kind of noteworthy because it is considered by many fans to be the quote-unquote best Puppet Master movie. So I know, Steve, this is your favorite, correct?
I am one of those fans. So this is the best Puppet Master movie, which means Borp, you better fucking love this, because if you don't, it's all downhill from here.
Okay, now Borp, I do now just to lessen the burden on you, Borp. I do not believe this is the best Puppet Master movie. Okay. My favorite Puppet Master movie will not happen until like 8 films down the line in the chronological order.
Puppet Master 2? No, I was gonna say, like, is that the last one in the chronology? But no, like 4 and 5 both takes place after it, I think.
Yeah. Now, and the other interesting thing about this is I was reading, once again, it came from the video aisle, a fantastic book if you're interested in Full Moon movies and learning the whole history of how all this stuff was created and why. It was a decision to turn the puppets good. And as I've said many, many times, Steve knows this, that was my sort of... It's not a break, because I still like these movies in general, but that was the moment where I was like, oh God. And this is the movie that did that. Even though they're fighting Nazis, I get it. Everyone loves to, a puppet massacring a Nazi. That's great. But this is where we lose the evil puppets for a while. For a while. So I was going into this with a little bit of trepidation. I've seen this multiple times. I kind of knew what I was getting into, but I was curious as to what my reaction would be going into it, having not seen it in a number of years. Steve, this is your favorite Puppet Master movie. Was there any sort of worry on your part going back and revisiting this that it might sort of change your view?
A little bit, but only because the subspecies series was so garbage from start to finish. I was like, man, this is like the early mid '80s full moon is pretty rough. Is young Steve just misremembering the greatness of this? So I was hesitant, but hopeful. I'm just curious. Like, did the book explain why? Like, I understand it was a decision that they made to make them good. Was there like, what's the reasoning they gave for
Yeah,
it, or do they
the
give a
book
reasoning?
says yeah, the book says because the puppets started getting very, very popular, and of course, Full Moon, like the original Puppet Master, was a huge hit on video, like gigantic hit. That's how Charles Band was able to start pumping out all of these things with Paramount, because Paramount was making money hand over fist with all these things. The puppets started getting very, very popular, and it seems like, according to the book, the decision was made: we got to turn them good because a lot of kids are starting to like it. Charles Band, of course, always wanted to create merchandise and dolls and various things. I think he saw a path forward where the puppets as good guys would give him more money than leaving them as bad guys.
See, I mean,
Which, I mean, maybe you can't argue with his logic.
I feel like I can argue with this logic, and maybe this is hindsight, but I mean, Freddy and Jason were also really popular with horror movie kids growing up, but in there's not a movie where Freddy is the hero saving people. So maybe that's hindsight.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I don't know that I'm happy that we got this, 'cause again, this is my favorite, and I
I'm
like
not.
them as good guys, but I don't know that I agree with that logic.
Yeah, but to be fair, they did like over time, with Freddy, they did like downplay his backstory, and it did become like more of a cartoon as it went
Made
on.
him more, made him funnier and
Right, right.
cracking jokes. I
Raise your
remember
hand
dressing
if
up
you
like
would watch.
Freddy Krueger
Yeah, raise
for
your hand
Halloween.
if you would watch a Freddy versus Nazis movie, because I would I would be all in
Like,
on that, and Freddy
that's
Yeah,
would be
not
the
a,
good guy, and
yeah,
I would
yeah.
root for him.
we agree. Any person fighting Nazis, we are good with that. I just wish that they
We are good
didn't.
with that.
Con-
Not necessarily the entirety of America is good with that.
well, we'll set that aside for now, Steve. But what I will say is, they don't revert them back to bad guys, even in the
Hitler
movies where
in the
they're not
background
fighting.
behind Matt's head now.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I am gonna have to.
Enjoy
Uh,
editing,
no,
friend.
I see. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a big, censored block on that on the entire movie in the background, and then I don't have to go through and do all that stuff. So,
You
ladies and
could
gentlemen,
also turn it off.
but that ruins the whole aesthetic and the mood that I'm going for here. I mean, I've kept this sort
Mm.
of mood going, and I don't want to break it. Now, Borp,
Eh,
you've never seen a Puppet Master movie until this. What were your thoughts going into this when we roped you in, kicking and screaming, to joining this show and watching 14 movies with us? How did you feel going into this?
Well, I wouldn't do this if I didn't think I would enjoy the movies. I've heard a lot about them,
Okay.
and I'm a big fan of garbage, to be honest. So like, as we're gonna get into the later, or like the further we
you
get
should have
along,
watched Retro then.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be sure to go back. I was a little worried the moment I realized, like, oh no, this takes place in Nazi Germany. Uh, how's this going to be handled? This movie's called
Yeah, and
Puppet
you
Master
feel
3.
that a little more because you're in Europe, right?
Oh, I don't know. With the way things are going in the U.S., I'm not sure. Uh, but no, I like this movie quite a bit. I mean, it's
Well,
cheesy
don't
and kind of.
spoil. Don't
Well,
spoil it
okay.
yet. We gotta wait till
One
the
of
end.
us.
All
One
right.
of
Jeez,
us.
unbelievable. Okay, so yeah, they were originally going to film. Now, the cool sort of backstory of this is they were originally going to film this. Guess where, Steve?
The Bodega Bay, whatever, like at the
No,
same place they filmed the first two.
Romania. They were going to go
Ah,
to Romania
yes.
to film it, where the wonderful Subspecies franchise was shot. However, the government there was very, very unstable, so they decided, well, let's go shoot it in Hungary. And for whatever reason, that fell through as well. So you know where they actually ended up shooting this movie? On the
California.
universe. Well, yes, on the Universal Studios backlot. So Charles Band sprung for the money. Well, I should say Paramount probably sprung for the money. Actually paid for. They shot it on the backlot at Universal Studios, and that's why this is probably the biggest budgeted Puppet Master movie of the main sort of full moon created ones, I'd say. And yeah, so that's kind of the context of where we're at. The first two Puppet Master movies, huge money makers on video. Charles Band went all in on Puppet Master 3. Steve, walk us through this wonderful, wonderful film.
All right. Well, the first thing we see, as you may have noticed behind Matt's head, was Nazis, and there's two major Nazis.
Can we say
One
that word
is,
on YouTube, or are we going to get blocked?
I mean, I've
Like,
already said it. So,
do they
Yeah.
block us in Germany
what
if we say that
what
word?
do you want to wait, what do you want to say? Like the German Axis power soldiers?
Jeez, that's worse. That's somehow worse.
Do you want me to just call them Germans and let people infer?
Whoa, let's not go that far.
I need
What
choices to be made here.
Borp, Borp, we'll just call them Swedes.
Hey now.
The Hitlerers are doing Hitler
The Hitler
stuff.
fan club.
I'm
Yeah,
calling them Nazis.
I don't
mean,
think there's
that's
a
what
way
they are.
around this.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
Nazis.
this movie is puppets versus Nazis. Period. We got it. We got to use that word.
Let's do
So the Nazis are trying to find a way to basically create zombies, or revive their dead soldiers so they can fight again. There
This is
is
very
Doctor.
Reanimator.
Yes, in more ways than one, because we see some strange green liquid later on. But Dr. Hess is running this science experiment, and he answers to Major Kraus. They bring a zombie back, but it immediately, like, the zombie's uncontrollable, and so Kraus kills it. Uh, then we see Toulon running a puppet show, and he has a Hitler puppet that is not alive, and he is having Six Shooter just fuck with it. So he's putting on this anti-Hitler puppet show for the kids. There is another Nazi named Stein who is in the audience and taking pictures. After the show, an annoying kid named Peter and his dad hang out with
Oh,
Toulon for a little bit.
hate that guy.
Um,
I will say that the other Nazi that's in there taking pictures, it looks absolutely ridiculous. He's got this camera out and just not inconspicuous at all. He's just sitting there like with it up to his eyeball, taking all these pictures. I'm like, no one noticed that? Seems very odd.
did anyone care? I don't know. Uh,
Maybe not. I cared.
Anyways, Nazi Stein is taking pictures of the puppet show, and then after the puppet show, after Peter and his dad leave, Stein goes and talks to Toulon and basically says, you know, have you noticed that you're in Germany right now? Because you probably shouldn't be putting on anti-Hitler
Yeah.
puppet shows. But Toulon's like, nah, it'll be fine. And
Now
so
remember, this
Stein,
takes place in 1941. So
yes,
this movie says
1941.
1941, not
Uh,
1944.
which is 2 years after Toulon killed himself in part one. So Charles Band
Yes.
did not respect the canon here.
What?
People just
Yeah.
just did shit whatever they want without
What?
Borp,
without.
did you just say
What?
what? Did you just say what, Borp?
What? Like, why would they do that?
I don't know. It's almost like when you don't give a shit about your canon, you introduce a shitload of plot holes into your
But
film series. But yes, this
Why
movie
would they
takes
do
place.
that?
This movie takes place 2 years after Toulon is dead,
Like, just
but he's still alive. The
just
other
said
movie,
it in 1948. Like, what?
Well, they
what?
can't set it in 1938, Borp, because the Germans mention all the losses that they're taking on the Russian front, and that happened in 1941. That's why they need to reanimate their dead soldiers so they can have bodies to fight World War II.
Okay.
Makes
Yeah,
total
Borp,
sense.
every like, with very few exceptions, like, every Puppet Master movie basically has to exist in its own universe because it doesn't just
Yeah.
make any fucking sense compared to the movie that came before or after it.
And am I correct? If you watch Retro Puppet Master, the first one chronologically,
Mhm.
it starts in 1944. So not
Yeah.
only did Toulon die in 39, he's back here, but then Retro starts in
Oh my God.
1944.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you gotta keep up.
it's yeah, no, the plot holes are ridiculous throughout their series. Anyways, Stein leaves, And Elsa is like, Toulon, he's a fucking Nazi. You can't fuck with him. We need to take it seriously. And Toulon's like, it'll be fine. And then he calls
Played
out
by
all the
Guy
puppets.
Rolfe. Played by
Guy
Guy
Rolfe.
Rolfe again. And did you realize? I had completely forgotten about this, Steve, because it's been so long since we were at Flashback Weekend. Guy Rolfe is the doll maker in Dolls. That's
Is he?
him.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, that sounds right.
Yeah, he
Yes.
is. Forgot all about it.
Good. He's great. I love him in this and Dolls. Let's talk about the fucking movie. All right. So after the meeting with Lieutenant Stein, Toulon calls out all of the puppets, and there's 4 puppets starting out. They are Six Shooter, Tunneler, Jester, and Pinhead. Not retro
Jester's the
Pinhead,
best.
actual Pinhead.
Jester's the
And
best.
so Toulon has like a vial, a syringe of green reanimator juice that he injects into all the puppets, and that keeps them alive. You might recall if you
Reagents.
watch Retro Puppet Master that in that movie the puppets were revived by stabbing them with a ring and saying magic words.
Yeah.
So again, this movie does not make any fucking sense in light of the previous film. Anyway, so the Stein hears Toulon talking to the puppets, looks through the window and sees the puppets are alive. And so he goes and reports to Dr. Hess and Major Krause, and he's like, hey, if we get this puppet juice, we can have the zombies that we want. And everyone's like, yeah, cool. That makes sense.
Well,
Is that not what happens?
to be fair, Kraus goes up to him and is like, "Have you lost your mind?" And then he's like, "Look at the photos I took." And then suddenly he's like, "All right."
Krause is like, all right, yeah. And Dr. Hess is immediately like, yeah, let's do this. Like, Kraus is a little bit, he has some reservations, but Hess is like, fuck yeah, puppet juice. And so, like the next day, the Major Kraus and Stein and Dr. Hess, they conduct a raid on Toulon's puppet theater. Um, they end up killing Elsa, and who
Poor
Toulon's
Elsa.
wife. Elsa is dead. They take Toulon away,
Well,
but they
that's a
just
cool scene, though. That's a cool scene because the one thing I will say about this is Richard Lynch,
you
the
have
guy
to
who
do
plays
so
Kraus.
much editing.
I'm just gonna
Holy
put up
shit.
a I'm just gonna put up a censored bar right there. Don't worry about it. I've already got this figured out. The editing is
Okay.
gonna be real easy on mine. But I like Richard Lynch as Kraus. He is one of those great he plays an evil Nazi, and you want an evil Nazi in that role. And Elsa tries to save Toulon's life. She steps in the way, boom, she gets shot, and then when they leave, like Guy Rolfe, he's like inconsolable. Like the love of his. I mean, they had that scene before where he's telling her how much he loves her when they're sitting in
He
bed, and
gives her a
how
puppet.
gives her a puppet and everything, and then boom, she's shot. But then not only that, because Krause is like, "Don't worry, gonna call an ambulance." And then like they take Toulon out, and then she just spits on him, and he's like, "Well, here's your ambulance." Boom, bullet. He's a good bad guy. He's a good bad guy. I will say that.
So I have a question. And I don't know if like maybe your book talks about this or not. Like Richard Krause, the guy that plays Major Krause or whatever,
Richard Lynch.
uh, Richard Lynch. Thank you. Uh, was Puppet was Blade always modeled after Richard Lynch, or did they just happen to find an actor that looked exactly like the puppet that already existed? Because the resemblance between Blade and Richard Lynch is on point.
Blade was not modeled after Richard Lynch. He was modeled after Klaus Kinski, another crazy German. Very, very crazy. Klaus Kinski is notorious. Anybody who's watching Borp, you know who Klaus Kinski is, right?
I'm aware.
Okay. He was insane. Absolutely insane on set. Like he would try shooting people for real on set. He would what was the Full Moon or the Empire movie he was in? Wasn't Tourist Trap, was it? There was a Full Moon movie in the late 70s, early 80s that he was in, notorious for being a psycho on set. Watch some of like Agira, The Wrath of God, and stuff like that, some behind the scenes. He's nuts. They modeled it after him. Richard Lynch just looks like clearance rack Klaus Kinski. So
Okay,
that's why.
good to know. Anyways, so yeah, as Matt said, Elsa is dead. Major Kraus killed her. Toulon is inconsolable, but the Nazis screw up and they say you just throw the puppets in the car with Toulon, and so Toulon is being taken away in a jeep, and he's got Pinhead and Tunneler with him. I don't know where Jester and Six Shooter are at this point, but they're not
Jester's
there.
sitting on a dresser somewhere.
Jester is doing nothing. He is off screen doing jack shit. Uh, and so
What's
Toulon's
the
in his
plan?
car. There's two guards trying to escort Toulon to wherever he's being taken, and Pinhead and Tunneler kill these two bad guys. Pinhead just strangles the shit out of one of them, and Tunneler uh, digs through the back of the driver's seat through the gut of the driver and comes out the other side of this guy. I remember watching. I watched this last night, and I'm just like, it's so refreshing to see the puppets actually like not just do things but actually be like properly animated
Yeah,
compared to the later Puppet Master garbage we get. But
yeah.
anyways,
Well, wait, I have a quick question for Borp at this point.
yes,
So Borp, you're seeing these little
Yeah.
puppets run around, do their thing. How are you feeling right now as you're watching this?
Fairly delighted. I think I would have. Okay, I think I would have wished that the puppets had a little more personality. It's like their personality is
Hmm.
just the one thing they do. Like, and I get it in some ways being new to the franchise. Like, that's that's good because I can figure out who the Jester is. I can figure out who Six Shooter is. Uh, but like I do kind of wish that there was, I don't know, just something a little more to them. Like the guy with the drill on his head is the thing that he drills people. Like that's the only thing he does. And I get it. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. That was the one
the
thing I thought
puppets are
about.
too one note for Borb.
Yeah, I will also point out that Six Shooter, he does not appear in Puppet Master 1 or 2. We have no idea what's going on with Six Shooter. So in Puppet Master 3, he's here, but we
Okay.
don't know what's going on. I will point out, just IMDb trivia here, the laughter of Six Shooter was supplied by Albert Band, father of producer Full Moon CEO Charles Band. Albert had escaped France during the Nazi regime, which means every time the viewer hears Six Shooter laughing after he had gunned down a Nazi, that is the actual voice of a man who had really escaped from them, which is cool. To me,
Wow,
that's cool. I
yeah,
like
that's neat. So
that.
anyways, Toulon is on the run with Pinhead and Jester. We get introduced to another major Nazi named like Captain Mueller, I think, and Mueller is he's like the man in charge of the man in charge of this zombie project. So he's above both Kraus and Hess, and he's like, you done fucked up. Toulon's escaped, and so now Dr. Hess and Kraus are hunting for Toulon. And Kraus is like, I'm just gonna fucking kill him. Like, I don't care about any of this. He's committed crimes against Germany. He's got to fucking die. And Dr. Hess is, like, no, if you want this zombie project to work, we need to capture him. I need to question him and find out how everything ticks. The Nazis first go to Toulon's theater and they find some of the green reanimator juice and they take that to study it, but then they just set the place on fire because Toulon's not there. Toulon ultimately turns up. I think he gets into a pharmacy, like an abandoned pharmacy that he's hiding out at, and he kind of breaks down again because Elsa's dead. But then he remembers the puppet that he made for Elsa. Like there's a scene early on that we reference where Toulon's like, like all these years we've been together, like I've been trying to paint a picture of you, but I suck at paint and canvas. But I'm really good at carving puppets, and so he carved a puppet of Elsa and presents it to her, and she's very moved by this. She loves it. She's very much on board with this puppet lifestyle that they have. But Toulon's like,
The puppet
fuck this
lifestyle.
noise. Yeah, fuck this noise. It's revenge time. And so he injects the animator green goo into the Elsa puppet, and then puts a leech presumably down her throat, but like this version of the puppet doesn't have a mouth that moves, so the camera just kind of pans away.
Yeah, so
uh
where did he put it?
I don't know. Anyway, so he reanimates the Elsa puppet with leeches, which completely changes how the Elsa puppet looks. It's like there's a puppet that looks like Elsa, and then she gets injected with the green goo and a leech, and now it's a completely different puppet with like purple skin and long
I
hair.
I'd be
Uh,
pissed off too, honestly. I'd be pretty
yeah,
pissed off.
yeah,
And
like
Toulon's like, he's like, this is the best I could do for you, honey. I'm like, really? Really? Was that the
yeah.
best you could do?
You couldn't just like leave her dead instead of like forcing her into puppet servitude for the next 50 or 60
Or
years.
how about not put a leech inside of her? I know
Yeah,
he's
just
like
let her come back to life.
he has to give her a thing, I guess, to fight Nazis, but
All right.
a leech?
Question for you guys. I'm jumping ahead a little bit. We're gonna come back here, but all of the puppets kind of like make sense. Like Pinhead is super strong because he used to be this, really like kind-hearted but strong truck driver. Jester is a jester because he used to love making people laugh and play practical jokes. Toulon gave his wife puppet the power to suck the life out of people.
What are you trying to say, Steve? What's the
I don't
question?
know. Like there's some like what's going on here? What's the context of this? It's like everyone else has a positive
Subtext.
thing. Yeah, what's the subtext? Everyone else has like a very like positive thing associated with why they are their puppet. His wife puppet sucks the life out of things. Uh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe Toulon didn't think that one through. Anyways, now we have
Oh
Puppet
god.
Elsa, who has become Puppet Elsa has become Leech Woman.
I love that you're like, I have a question for you guys, and you never asked a question. You just said she sucks the life out of people. The end. Moving on.
The question was like, why? What are the layers that I should be peeling back here to discuss this? Like, Rachel would make us really probe this, and you
Mm,
guys are not helping me out at
I
all.
I don't know. I feel like a scriptwriter at some point thought, wouldn't it be cool if you had a puppet that threw up leeches on people, and they went with that.
So
Where did
Leech
why
Woman.
were there just a bunch of leeches there? I guess back that was what they would do. I don't even know if they still did this back in the 40s, but they used to put leeches on people to like, blood let them out and stuff, and try to
Mhm.
get them healthy, removing some bad blood. Whatever. They still do that in the 40s. I mean, maybe it just seemed weird that
I
there
don't
was a whole bunch
know.
of leeches in
I
bottles
don't
there.
like in parts 1 and 2 was Leech Woman also Elsa, or is that just something they made
Yes.
up for
No,
this? All right, 'cause I don't
she's been
remember.
Elsa, I believe. Yeah, because I think in Puppet Master 2 he mentions that it was Elsa because she, spoiler alert, dies in part 2.
Okay. Well, anyway, so Elsa is now Leech Woman, and Toulon's like, we're gonna fucking go kill Nazis now. And so they first find Lieutenant Stein,
Getting the band
and
together.
like I think Jester is there and like does maybe nothing.
Stop.
Uh,
Stop. He looks awesome. Borp, what's your favorite puppet? You watched all the puppets here. What's your favorite puppets so far?
I think my favorite one here was Six Shooter.
Okay.
it's this
Now
one.
I have a really cool trivia for you for Six Shooter. So
Mhm.
Six Shooter was originally going to be a mix, sorry, Six Shooter was originally going to be a six-armed ninja, but was changed to a cowboy since the writer was a big Western movie fan, and it also made sense in the story as Six Shooter would represent America. The artist who created the poster
Hmm.
used a 1988 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles foot soldier toy as a base for Six Shooter. There was a ninja puppet in Puppet Master Axis of Evil. So Borp, I just want to let you know, subconsciously, you are so pro America that Six Shooter's your favorite puppet. How does that make you feel? Makes me feel great.
I, I don't know. I'm fine with that. I mean, he has 6 arms and 6 guns. I think that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Very one note though. Anyways, so Jester is just kind of there, and then Pinhead hits Stein with like a wrench in the head, and then Leech Woman like crawls over him and starts like puking leeches on him. And like if he just lays there motionless, in like 5 to 6 years, he's gonna die from blood loss
Jester
from these leeches.
stabs him in the knee, dude,
Okay, Jester stabs him in the knee.
with a scalpel.
Uh,
Come on
I
now.
don't, I don't. What is Leech Woman supposed to do? Like, are leeches like highly poisonous and venomous in the
No.
Puppet Master universe? Like,
No.
it's just a thing.
Yeah.
Again, what is the subtext for Toulon giving his wife the power to suck the life out of people? Um, anyway,
Rachel.
so yeah, Rachel, come answer these questions for us. So Stein is dead. They find his body, and from here it's just kind of like attacking Nazis. Like eventually, uh, Toulon is hiding out somewhere. and he sends Six Shooter to kill Captain Mueller, and so now like the only two big Nazis left in the movie are Kraus and Dr.
Well,
Hess.
don't forget the I guess Captain Nazi, whatever his name was. You get the obligatory sex scene by Scream
Yeah,
Queen
that's
Michelle
Captain
Bauer.
Mueller.
Yeah, Michelle Bauer, and that's kind of a cool sequence. They actually do some stop motion with Six Shooter while he's standing in the hallway, and even though Six Shooter has the tiniest guns, and it's even mentioned later on by Kraus, these are the smallest bullets I've ever seen. He blows that Nazi away through a window face down onto face plant. That is great.
Gun
That's great.
physics.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Six Shooter hunts down Mueller and dies. Six Shooter does get an arm blown off, so he is just
Yep.
Five Shooter for a little bit. At this point, Kraus is in charge. Uh, Dr. Hess finds Six Shooter's arm and is like, "Oh, clearly, Toulon did this. We need to question him." Ultimately, everything everything turns to shit because kids are stupid. Toulon is hiding out in like some like just destroyed like underground bunker like in the middle of these ruins, and
Germany's
the
having a rough go of it.
yeah the kid Peter and his dad uh, excuse me, the kid Peter and his dad like stumble upon the same ruins, and so the kid is all happy, like he loves the puppets. The dad is less thrilled, but the Toulon says, "Okay, idiot kid Peter, you're my assistant now, just to kind of like make the kid happy and entertain him."
Terrible part
And
of the
the
movie.
kid's like, "I can go to your workshop. I can get the parts to fix Six Shooter's arm." And Toulon's like, absolutely not. Don't do that. That's fucking stupid. So the kid immediately goes out and does it. He gets caught. He gets caught by Dr. Hess, and Dr. Hess ultimately like gets the kid to lead him to Toulon under the guise that he just wants to talk to Toulon. Meanwhile, Major Kraus has put up
Never
these
trust a Nazi, guys. Never trust a Nazi. They're
he
liars.
Major Kraus like puts up a bunch of wanted posters, 10,000 marks for anyone that can help them catch Toulon. And so Dr. Hess goes to Toulon's place with the kid, and like everyone gets along. Dr. Hess is like, I just want to know your secrets. I'm not here to cause harm. And so he and Toulon kind of have a kind of sort of friendship. Meanwhile, Peter's dad goes to Major Kraus. And the backstory for Peter and his dad are his mom was captured, taken by the Nazis. She was from Warsaw, and the Nazis were like, nope, she's a spy, and so they captured her. And so Peter's dad goes to Kraus and says, I know where Toulon is. I don't want the money. I just want you to give me my wife back, and we will leave Germany and never return. We will stay out of your way. And Kraus agrees to this. Kraus, or the dad, leads the Nazis to Toulon, but ultimately, like Toulon and Hess and the puppets all escape. The doctor ends up dying. Well, the dad ends up dying as well. Kraus seemed like he was actually going to honor this deal at least for a little bit. Like he let the dad go in and get Peter out before he sent in the people with guns. Uh,
Yeah.
but as soon as things turned to shit, he's like, oh, clearly, like Kraus says to the dad, clearly you set me up. You warned them, and so he kills the dad, and so the kid runs away. Now Toulon and Dr. Hess and the puppets are fleeing from the Nazis, and Dr. Hess gets killed. And at this point, it's just Toulon and the puppets. I don't remember if the kid like really does anything else for the rest of the movie until he has like one final scene at the end. Uh, but Toulon is alone. Like all he has is his puppets at this point in his quest for revenge. Dr. Hess is dead, and this whole time he's been working on the Blade puppet. And he specifically they specifically acknowledge that this guy is meant to look uh, like Richard Lynch, Major Krause. And so they kind of break into Major Krause's office, and Toulon just sits there in the dark, and Major Krause walks in, and the puppets just start wailing on him. Does Jester stab him again, or does Jester just sit there? I don't remember. Does Jester do anything during this finale?
Look, man, he
That's a no.
masterminded the whole thing.
Jester does nothing. Uh, Pinhead, like I think, starts like strangling
Yeah.
starts strangling Major Krause.
In the entire
Oh,
franchise, Jester kills one person.
great.
One person in the
Um,
entire franchise.
Blade cuts Major Krause's leg and then cuts his hand. And then like Major Krause looks at Blade and has this recognition. It's like, oh shit, that's me in puppet form. And Toulon then stands up, and Toulon is now wearing like a Nazi uniform, which I guess he used to like sneak in. And so he's like, it's like looking into a mirror, isn't it? Blah blah blah. And it turns out, I don't know if they actually acknowledge it in the movie, but according to the Puppet Master wiki, like Dr. Hess's soul is now in Blade.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so Blade used to be a Nazi doctor.
Very
So so
Uh,
problematic.
so so Toulon created a puppet that looks like the Nazi who killed his wife and put the soul of a Nazi doctor into the puppet, and now that's supposed to be the good guy of the series.
Look, man, as I pointed out, Toulon has some real complicated feelings about his wife, apparently.
Borp, what are your thoughts on this? Is this problematic to you?
No, it's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, like
That,
Toulon,
that doesn't matter.
Toulon
Nothing matters.
stole, yeah, Toulon stole a Nazi's soul and is forcing him to do good. I can live with that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, well, as long as you can sleep at night,
I can,
that's
I
that's
can,
all I
I can.
care
I
about.
would sleep just fine. I will hold this little guy like close to me. Anyway, so all of the puppets minus Jester are attacking Kraus, and they have a rope. So Toulon has a rope that branches out into like four thinner strands of rope and hooks on the end of those four strands. And so Toulon like throws it up over like some sort of lighting fixture in the air, and they put two hooks in they put a hook apiece in Krause's ankles, one in his hand and one in the back of his fucking head, and they like pull him up into the sky. There's a
Yeah,
really cool like
puppeteering.
shot. Yeah, there's a really cool shot of
Yeah.
him like being suspended with just like one arm free to move around, but then the rest of his body is contorted in this incredibly painful looking manner. And then Pinhead grabs like a what is like a halberd, some sort of like two-sided battle axe, and like smashes it into the ground directly in front of him, directly below Kraus, and then they drop Kraus on the axe. Kraus dies, and then the end of the movie is Toulon has taken Peter under his wing, and they are now just trying to escape Nazi Germany, which apparently they fail to do because 3 years later he's still on the run, according to Retro Puppet Master. The
Do we
end.
ever see
This
Peter again?
I think in one of the shitty clip show movies is
Is it
what clip show
Curse? No, can't be Curse.
is it where there's like a Nazi girl who tries to kill the new puppet master, and the puppet master is like narrating things to like this girl that's bleeding
Oh,
out? Because I think the puppet master in that movie is Peter. I could be completely wrong.
okay.
We'll
I
find
think I
out
know.
in like
Yeah.
we'll find out in like 6 weeks.
Okay.
I think
So
Peter comes back.
okay, Borp, I'm going to throw this to you.
Okay.
Give us your thoughts on your first ever Puppet Master movie.
I thought this was delightful. I think this definitely, at every opportunity where they had the choice to, like, okay, how are we gonna play this, they just decided to do the most entertaining thing. Like, let's make it so six shooter shoots this guy and he jumps out a window. Like, yeah, sure, that's gonna happen. Every time the puppet, something that really got me was like every time the puppets would kill someone, and at the end of the death scene, like Toulon would just emerge from the shadows in this, like, uh, and all those shots were like surprisingly well stylized. I think that's what I enjoyed about this. Is like I mean, it's a B movie. It's stupid, but it's like well made enough so you can appreciate it on those terms as well. Like, I think the movie looks good, and like doing a period piece like this on a very low budget, like it looks surprisingly well done. And I think a lot of it helps that they had the Universal lot and they could use these how do you say, like, time appropriate vehicles.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think that stuff helped a lot. But yeah, I enjoyed this.
Yeah. Well, I'll let Steve have the final word since this is his favorite in there. I'm actually glad, Borp, that you enjoyed this first one because I think you want to start the series out on a high because it's going to get real, real low as we continue to go through it. So it's good that you have a positive first impression because I don't think you maybe necessarily would have had that positive first impression had you started with Retro Puppet Master. That was a movie that was made very, very much or much, much later in the
Right.
timeline of movies.
Right, and I think
Um,
that's maybe why. Sorry to jump in,
no, it's fine.
but I think that's maybe why I haven't seen these films up until now. Because by the time I got into horror, like this brand, like was essentially a joke. Like I know what these movies turned into, and when I got into horror, like this whole thing was like, oh, they were doing like evil bong movies and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. So my thoughts on this movie. I like this movie just fine. I do not hate this movie. Again, my sort of disappointment with this movie is like I really love bad guy puppets. And the first two Puppet Master movies are bad guy puppets running around and killing people. And so I remember when I first saw this movie, even as a kid, I was really disappointed with it because I was like, really? This is the direction we're going? Now they're good guys? And it kind of pretty much stayed that way for the rest of the series up until The Littlest Reich, which we'll get to eventually. But this is like Borb said, this is a really well made movie. You could tell there was a lot of money put into this. The period piece, the sets, just the 35 millimeter. Cinematography and everything on it all looks good. It's got a cool villain. Richard Lynch is awesome as Kraus. It's got all those moments where the Nazis are like awful and you want them to die, and you get to see a lot of Nazis die, which is always great. That's always a great thing when you watch a movie and see a Nazi die. In terms of the puppets, like there's great stop motion. This David Allen, of course, came back and did stop motion. There's that great sequence when six shooters like spidering up the side of the building to get. We didn't talk about that, but he's literally like Toulon's like literally down there. He's like, "All right, boy, go get him," and he's like, "Eh," and he's literally like crawling up the side. It's in broad daylight, and you're just sitting here like, wow, wouldn't that be wild to see something like that in real life? Like you're just walking around, you see this puppet climbing up. So yeah, there's a lot of like the stuff with six shooters really cool, stop motion wise, where he's spinning his guns around and all of that. Jester does something in this movie, so that's great because going forward he does very very little. But he does have the emotion that you want, Borp. He can spin his head around. He looked very, very sad when Elsa died, and when Toulon was sad, he had his sad face on. And then when he gets angry, he can spin his head around and give the angry face. So he's got a range of emotions that the other puppets don't have. Also interesting, from movie to movie, I think Jester's the only puppet that's look constantly changes because he's always wearing a different sort of Jester costume going through. Maybe not 4 and 5 because those were filmed at the same time, but all the other ones he always looks slightly different. Where the other puppets pretty much look exactly the same. But yes, I like this movie. Please, Full Moon Puppet Master lovers, don't come at me. I like this movie just fine. I'm disappointed that they're good guys going forward. They're allowed to be good guys killing Nazis. I'm totally cool with it. So yes, I do like this one quite a bit. Steve, this is your favorite, man. I'm going to turn it over to you. You got the final word on this.
This is great. This movie absolutely held up, and I'm so thankful that I get to say that because after Retro Puppet Master, which was bad, but it was fine. It didn't sour me on the franchise at all. Those movies come later. But after like Species or Subspecies and the shit show that was all that, I'm all right, this is going to be like episode like 7, episode 8, maybe of Full Moon Fridays, and this is the first movie that I think is like legitimately like great. Love it. Thrilled that it held up. Can't wait to see more puppets killing Nazis because that's going to be a fucking theme for a little while. Because aren't all of the like up next in the chronology isn't it more puppet versus Nazi movies, like 3 to 4 of them?
I'm looking right now. So obviously we're not counting Puppet Master 2. because there's just a quick flashback scene in that. We're going to watch that much later on because that takes place in 1989 primarily. The next thing was the prologue and epilogue scenes from 1941 from Retro, which we already saw. Puppet Master Axis of Evil is next, ladies and gentlemen. So we have Axis
which
of
is
Evil, Axis
garbage.
Right,
But
and
the one
also
after
very
that is
problematic.
hilarious.
Yeah, they're all very problematic in their own ways. I'll be interested to hear what Borb thinks of these. But yeah, Axis of Evil, Axis Rising, and Axis Termination are the next. And those are three of the more recently made Puppet Master movies. So we're going from something that was shot in 1991 up to something that was made in 2010. So
Yeah.
basically 20 years later, we're going there. So yeah.
And none of it's going to make a lick of fucking sense because Charles Band doesn't respect the canon. Like, just from these two movies, so chronologically, Retro Puppet Master followed immediately by Puppet Master 3. In Retro Puppet Master, Toulon learns the secret of life from a sorcerer in France, and it's a spiky ring and a magic spell. And here in part 3, which is the very next movie, it's a green reanimator juice that he learned in Egypt.
Yeah,
Fuck you,
because we
Charles
don't.
Band. Fix
Well,
your
it's that
fucking
thing.
franchise.
It's that thing. Well, apparently it's been fixed in the comic books because if you go to the Puppet Master wiki, there is detailed information on all of the plot holes in every single one of these movies. And apparently there was a line of comic books that came out where some fan, and I was actually reading up about this because they actually asked the creator of these comic books. He's like, "Are these comic books canon? Does Charles Band consider them canon?" And the guy's like, "I don't know. He's never said anything to me about them." But apparently this guy approached Charles Band at some point and was like, "Look, I'm a huge fan of Puppet Master. I want to connect them all and make it all work." And Charles Band gave him his blessing, and he did. He
Charles
made
Band
it.
said, "Good luck."
Yeah, Charles
Yeah,
Band waved them off with one hand and said, "Yeah, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine."
yeah. As long as I get a cut of
Yeah,
whatever, and I could,
exactly.
yeah, make a toy of whatever new character you create.
Matt,
So,
how did it make you feel? Because at the end of this movie, when the credits roll, you see coming soon,
oh
Puppet
god,
Master 4. When evil puppets turn good. Are you
terrible.
excited?
No,
We're like 2
no.
months away from actually getting to that movie.
I know, and yeah, and it's funny because I'm just like, well, there, fuck it. No, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I will not. I will go ahead and spoil that. I do not like Puppet Master 4 and 5. Well, I remember not liking Puppet Master 4 and 5 at all. I'm actually curious to see what I will think of them when I rewatch them. But man, no, no, because like a movie they shot at the same time, they're back to back. It's 3 hours of puppet puppet action I don't want to see. Like I don't want to see it, and they give me 3 hours straight. I can deal with it if they're killing Nazis. That's fine. Nazis, bad guys killing bad guys. Fine, I can get past it. I can't get past. No. They got to save Earth. Puppets are gonna save Earth.
Wait, is
Give
that
me
real?
Yeah. Oh man,
yeah,
Borp, you're in for a fucking
Okay.
treat when we get to
All right.
parts 4 and 5.
Okay.
yeah, Borp. We're going crazy as we get
All
through
right.
this.
I think a thing that worked for me with the puppets being the good guys here is that I kind of view this as like a reverse slasher film where so much of the movie is focused on the bad guys, the Nazis. They're trying to find this guy, and they're like, "Where's Toulon?" And I'm like, I'm watching this now. I have no idea either. He's the good guy. I have no idea where he's either. Uh, but like Toulon really work. I mean, he's not doing any of the actual killings here, but like there's a period of this movie where he actually feels like a slasher villain. Like he shows up, kills someone, and then he cuts back to the bad guys, and they're like, "Oh no, he killed another one." So I thought that was kind of interesting from a structural perspective.
Well, I'll be curious when we finally get to Puppet Master 1, which is, let's see, that's the sixth film? No, when we get Puppet Master 1 and Puppet Master 2, the puppets are very clearly villains. Like, very, very, especially in part 2, they are very clearly bad guys. One of them actually, like, kills a child, like straight up kills a child,
Right.
and I'm like, yes, this is what I want. This is what I want. So I'll be curious. You're gonna watch all these movies where the puppets are good guys,
hmm
and then you're gonna hit like film 7 in the chronological timeline, and suddenly they're bad guys. And I'm curious what your reaction is gonna be if it's the opposite of mine, because I watched them
Yeah.
bad and then saw them turn good, and you're watching them good going to turn bad. It'll be interesting to see what
Yeah.
happens
Yeah.
there. But so, and I actually have not seen. I'm looking at the timeline here. I've actually not seen Blade: The Iron Cross. So that came out in 2020, and that's right after Axis Termination. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing
I've not seen
that.
either of those.
Yeah,
So I've seen the next two movies, and then the two movies after that I have not seen, and I don't
cool.
know that I
Cool.
want to, but we're going to. It's going to happen.
We're doing it. We're doing
We're
it.
committed.
So, Borb, any final thoughts on your first show? We thank you for joining us on this journey
Oh, of
through
course,
Puppet.
of course. Um, no, I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes, even though I'm watching this in the
Shouldn't
stupidest
be.
way possible, which honestly feels kind of fitting. Like I had this moment where I was like, should I just watch the first one just to get a feel for it? And I'm like, no, I committed to this. Like, no, let's just do this. I'll watch the first one. 6, 7 movies in. Sure,
Well,
let's
don't
do this.
don't forget, you got to go back and watch
Yeah,
Retro Puppet
I'll
Master.
do it. And honestly, the reason I didn't go back to watch a
Titties in the
retro.
background.
Oh,
Oh,
I did.
Michelle Bauer, beautiful scream queen.
I didn't go back and watch retro because I'm like, if I hate this, I don't want to spend 3 hours preparing for this show.
Oh, jeez. That's fair. I mean, I
Yeah,
can't fault
yeah,
your logic, as Ronan
yeah,
would say.
yeah.
Can't fault your logic. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking out another episode of Full Moon Fridays, Puppet Master 3, Toulon's Revenge. We all think it's good, so it's absolutely one that you should watch. It's the first film in this entire new show we're doing on Outpost Unknown that Steve has actually really enjoyed. So the first Full Moon movie is really, really liked. And we will be back in 2 weeks. We're dropping these every 2 weeks. So mark your calendars where we're going to talk about Puppet Master Axis of Evil. Takes place in 1941, but the year, according to Wikipedia, is 1939. So we're going back in time to when Toulon allegedly killed himself next in the chronological. So we're going from 1941 to 1939 is what we're doing here.
Charles Band, I need you to respect your canon. Good night, everyone. We're
Good night.
done. Cut.
Right?